Hello, everybody. A warm welcome to you all. The topic we have chosen today for discussion is thought and thinking. I'm very excited to meet you all to discuss this topic. Why? Uh, this topic is probably my most favorite topic. This is the topic that gave me the essence of what the enlightened master Shri Bagavath is trying to tell us all. There's a bit of a background to this, right? Uh, I've been trying to prepare for this talk for quite some time. Somehow it's not really happening. I was getting something like a what do you call a writer's block, some equivalent of that, right? Um, so I was wondering why is this? I mean, if this is my pet topic, and if I'm so comfortable trying to explain this, when I'm trying to make a video out of it, why is it taking so much of an effort? Then it came to me as a flash. The entire essence of this topic is free flow. So I am trying to go against the essence of the topic. I'm trying to prepare. So moment I realized this, then it dawned on me that I just have to let go and try and make it as a, how do I put it, as a medium, for the words and the subject to express itself through me. So here I am. This topic is the basis or the foundation for understanding what the master is trying so hard to explain. In fact, he's trying so hard because it's so simple to explain. So we tend to sort of lose the importance of what he's trying to say. Moment we hear it, we tend to believe, no, it can't be this simple. It can't be so easy. Because we have already got a sort of a fixation here, that the concept has to be something out of this world. We have to really sort of stand upside down to understand what this is about. But that's the beauty of it. The simpler it is, we tend to complicate it more, isn't it? So let me just start with a small anecdote. Sri Bagavath Mission brings out a magazine every month, right? So when the first issue of the magazine was brought out, maybe say what, I don't know, 10 years back or so, right? This is the topic that the master wrote in the first issue of the magazine, right? So you can understand, if this is the first thing that he chose to write in the magazine, then you can understand that how important this topic must be for him to decide to choose this as the first topic to write about, right? So he went about, wrote an essay, and it got published. Then the story goes that one of the readers had actually called Bagavath Mission, to express his gratitude for bringing out such a wonderful magazine, and especially that the keynote essay in that magazine written by the Master Shri Bagavath. But he put forth a very interesting question during his call. He said, see, the master is written about something so profound that there is nothing more to write about. The entire thing is finished. As in, anybody's search can come to an end just by reading this topic, reading about this topic. So his query was, if everything has already been explained, what are you guys going to do for the next issue of the magazine? I mean, where are you going to go for content? Because everything is over. So what more is there to write about? So see, this anecdote sort of explains for a person who is already on a search, let it be a spiritual pursuit or a search to understand what or how the mind works, etc. This answers completely to that question. So anybody who has some idea of what they are searching about gets their answers beautifully completed just by understanding this topic. But anyway, so the story goes that the magazine has been running month on month ever since, and the same idea or the understanding that the master is trying to give is being put forth in various other ways and from various angles for the ease of everybody to understand. Anyway, so that's the importance of what this topic is about, right? Um, let's take my own case. um, Before I got introduced to the master, um, I was confronted with, let us say, three kind of problems. One was I was into spirituality, so I was searching for answers in my spiritual quest, right? And the second was I had some emotional issues to deal with, and I was trying to figure out how to solve them. And the third one was excessive thinking, right? So for the first and the third, I got an answer just by understanding this topic itself. So now you understand why I'm saying that this is my pet topic, right? This solved two out of my three requirements. The second one got solved by understanding another concept, but then that's for another video, right? We will take it up as a later video. Maybe I'll try to give a talk on that. So that will explain how that emotional issues got solved for me, right? So um, so this answers, as you can see, this answers a spiritual need as well as a psychological need, right? When I'm saying psychological need, in my case, it was excessive thinking, right? So let's start with the last one, right? So excessive thinking. I'll just give you a bit of a background about how I used to suffer with this problem. Um, it used to be something like a motor running in my mind, thousand thoughts at any given point of time going through my mind. I used to feel so suffocated, so stifled, right? I used to think, how can I end this? Try what I might, this was not going away. One of the things that used to give me relief was I realized from a pretty, I don't know, maybe what, 10, 15 years back, or maybe even 20 years back also, right? That when I was riding the bike, okay, so that was the time I was not bothered with this excessive thinking. Why? Because when I was riding the bike, it was as if my personality and the bike blended, into one another. So the so-called the man and the machine were fused together. So my entire concentration used to be on the road, on the traffic, as to who's going in front of me, who's coming behind me, who's coming to my side, who's trying to overtake me, etc., etc. So with so much of focus, I suppose there was no space in my mind to let other thoughts crowd in, right? So that used to be a bit of a relief, maybe a temporary one, but at least it was a relief. So I used to really enjoy going out on bike rides. Um, so much so that in those days I used to drive little fast, not so much these days, but those days it used to be, I used to drive a little fast, so much that people at home were really concerned, that uh, were people who used to call me as a rash driver. So that was one way I used to find relief for this excessive thinking, right? And the other stuff that I've tried out is, I often you hear, when you are trying to do some meditation, your thoughts cease to bother you. You'll reach a thoughtless state, etc., etc. So I've tried that out. So in my quest to find out, see, meditation in my case solved. I mean, I was trying to approach it from two angles: one for my spiritual pursuits, and the other one was for my excessive thinking. So my experience has been that during meditation, everything is hunky dory. Everything is picture perfect. Um I'm concentrating on whatever methodology technique I was using to meditate, and during the time of my meditation, my thoughts used to, I wouldn't say become zero, barring a few seconds probably, but it used to majorly not bother me so much, right? Um, but then it was short lived, as I mentioned, because the moment I finished meditation, within a few minutes these thoughts used to rush in as if it was trying to fill in a vacuum created inside a container. So the moment they used to rush in, I used to again get suffocated with excessive thinking. So I was really perplexed to find a solution. So this was on the excessive thinking side. And when it came to my spiritual pursuits, again, I was I had read quite a bit. I'd practiced a few things, but somewhere there was a bit of a block. I was not able to cross over. I could really sense that there's something in front of me. I couldn't quantify it. I couldn't measure it. I couldn't see it, but it seemed like an invisible wall. Um, I knew that there was something behind that wall, and if only I were able to sort of open the gate or cross the wall, however you might call it, then I'll arrive. But somehow that the last bit was proving to be very elusive. So this this topic, the understanding that this topic gave me, sort of opened the door even for my spiritual fulfillment. So, given this background, I feel that since I have benefited out of understanding this topic, I thought it's only right that I share my thoughts about this. Again, thoughts about this. So here we go. So we are taking two things simultaneously. One is a thought, the other is a thinking. So both of them seem to be synonymous, isn't it? Thought, thinking. If you look at the dictionary meaning, it will almost look similar. But but there is a very subtle difference. There is a very thin line that separates these two. The moment we understand that thin line of separation, then everything gets solved. Right? How do you understand that? Let's take thought. Thought is something that happens automatically. You can't plan a thought, isn't it? I mean, we all had that experience, isn't it? I mean, can we really plan that at so and so time I'm going to manifest so and so thought? Doesn't happen that way. It just randomly hits you from nowhere. Sometimes even after quite some time, you realize, why did I even start thinking about this? Right? So thought is something that happens automatically. When a thought arrives, what do? We put in our efforts using our mind, right? And convert that thought into thinking. This is the beauty. So the differentiating factor here is our effort going into the process and converting an automatically formed thought into thinking, which is sort of man-made, right? So the simple thing, when the thought becomes thinking, is when it becomes a problem, right? So, and most times we don't even realize when the thought got converted into thinking and how long the thinking has been going on. That was the problem in my case. At least I can speak for myself, right? So when you stop the effort, then the thought just stays as a thought. When I'm saying it stays as a thought, doesn't mean that it stays within you. In fact, Master Bhagavat explains that a thought has about a fraction of a second of lifetime, which means it comes and it goes. You can't even literally catch a thought going, right? It's so short lived. It is our mind which is fueling the fire by adding its effort, converting the thought into thinking, right? um, how can we understand this through some examples? um, Let me take my own case. um, I've had this experience that when I was riding, whenever I ride a bike, if there is a uh, roadside eatery, called so-called food cart, if I can put it that way. When I'm crossing the food cart, if I can sense the smell and the aroma in the air, it used to be my habit that I used to park the bike to the side of the road and go and have something to eat. So this has been my nature. Uh, so then I realized that I'm doing it almost spontaneously, whether or not I feel like, I mean, whether or not I'm hungry, whether or not that place is hygienic enough to even eat something out of, right? So, given this background, after this understanding, what I realized was happening was, even now, when I ride the bike and I'm crossing a eating joint, an aroma wafts across, it hits me. Um, it's nice, it's pleasant. So then these days, what I do, so when the aroma hits me, a thought comes in my mind that, wow, this is smelling so nice. Should I just go and have something to eat? So that's the thought, that I didn't plan that this aroma is going to hit me. I didn't plan that I'm going to cross so and so eatery today. So I should bring this thought moment I cross the eatery. I didn't plan for it. So it happened on my way when I was riding the bike. So when the thought hits me, these days what happens is, uh, I ask myself, okay, are you hungry now? If the answer is yes, then I convert that thought into thinking and then get it into action. I park the bike to the side of the road, go and have something to eat, and then proceed. If the answer to the question is no, I'm not really hungry, then I don't even stop my bike. I just ride along, right? So a thought becomes thinking, as in when I'm crossing the place, the aroma is wafting across. I get the thought that I should eat something there, and then I realize, and I'm putting an effort there to analyze. Moment there is a need for action, I convert thinking into action, finish it. If there is no need for action, then I don't even convert from thought to thinking to action, but instead leave it then and there, and then I proceed. When I do that, I'm realizing these days that the thought doesn't stay with me. Let's say after I've crossed 100 meters, I've actually forgotten about that eatery, about that smell, about that aroma that came across, that wafted across, and then hit me. So this is one example I can probably tell you where this concept has helped me understand how thought converts into thinking, and then, if required, converts into action. Right. So the moment we understand that this burden need not be carried, in a logical way, if we can figure out when the thought converts into thinking and stop it then and there, then we are free, right? I can probably give you one more example. um, let us take the example of a lady who's, let's say, who's baking a cake, right? She's baking a cake because she knows that her husband really loves that particular flavor of cake. Let's say it's a how do I put it? It's a plum cake. Okay, her husband happens to love a plum cake, so she decides that she'll surprise him that day and makes a lovely cake, and she's got it freshly made and waiting for her husband to come home from office. So right enough, the husband comes home, and she puts the cake in front of him. So he's had some issues at office, probably something playing on his mind. So he just looks at the cake and he says, "Ah, okay, yeah, it's looking nice." Obviously, this was not the expression or the reaction that the lady would have expected from her husband, right? She would have probably, a typical expectation would be, some sort of an appreciation for the effort that she's taken to make a clay cake that her husband so dearly loves. So she's disappointed, obviously, right? So she says, why don't you just take a bite of it and taste it? You like this cake, right? So why don't you? Not really, not now. Maybe after some time. She's again sort of put off. Then, being the indulgent type, she says, "No, no, no, no. I'll just take a small piece of this, and you just taste it." She just offers it to him, and he tastes it, and then the guy doesn't even still change. He says, it's okay. It's tasting nice. Okay, it's all right. Thank you. I mean, I can see you made something right. Thank you. So this by now this lady is sort of lost it. What is this? I've taken so much of effort, spent so much of time preparing something that I know he likes, and this is his reaction. I mean, come on, this is not really done right. So and this goes on, and the evening passes, and right up to the time that she's going to bed, this thought keeps on hitting her. What is this? What is wrong? I mean, have I done something wrong? Have I lost his love? See how the thought goes into a loop. From the thought, it became thinking, and she's putting more and more effort into it, and it's going in a loop and troubling her, right? So that becomes a problem eventually, and she starts even doubting his love for her. This is a very common scenario that you can encounter in many households, isn't it? Now, if the lady has had this understanding of thought and thinking, and how to differentiate between both, then she would have probably realized, okay, I made this wonderful cake. My husband has seen this. Maybe there was something playing on his mind. So today, maybe he was not in a mood to probably appreciate what I've done. That's okay. That's his nature. So, or the circumstances were such that nothing could be done out of it. What can I do now? I've presented the cake. He has reacted or sort of not reacted to what I've done. So, what can I do about it now? Nothing, right? When you can't do anything about a particular situation, when it's happened and it's in the past, and time is already gone and nothing in your control, then you realize that there's no action to be taken. Moment you realize there's no action to be taken, the thought which got converted into thinking stops there. Only when you start fueling it by going ahead and thinking further about it, saying, why did this happen, why did he do this, can't he see my love, etc. You are adding more and more effort into it, right? And you are actually giving life to that thought, or life to that thinking process, and you're making it continue on and on and on, and go, and, letting it run in a endless loop, right? So if this understanding was there, she would have probably cut it then and there. So this example again brings us to a very basic understanding that in our own lives we would have seen, when we are in the present moment, there is no thought, right? There is only action. A thought will be invariably based on the past, or it will depend on the future. When I'm saying it's based on the past, you'll probably remember about something that happened maybe yesterday, couple of days back, maybe a month back, year back, whatever, right? Or when it's about the future, it's more of a planning. Okay, tomorrow I have to do this. In a week's time, I have to make this payment to the utility company, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the present, you don't even realize when the thought became thinking, and from thinking it became an action. If there's something to be done, you'll do it, and then you finish it, right? So in many ways, when you understand this concept of thought and thinking, you actually get to live in the present. Why? Because you realize when a thought is likely to get converted into thinking, and moment you realize, you don't let it convert into thinking, so it just vanishes. As I said, a thought has only a fraction of a second of lifetime, isn't it? So one thought goes, the next thought comes. There is a flow of thought. This is probably what the master Shri Bagavath is saying as flow. He keeps on saying, go with the flow with the flow. So this happens when you understand the concept of thought getting converted into thinking, and if required, then you decide. Then that's actually a choice given to you, whether you want to convert that thinking into action and finish it, or drop it then and there. Now, this brings us to an important standpoint, and this is the point where I used to get stuck. Initially, when after I heard this concept and I was trying to put it into my life as practice, um, I realized that this uh, identification of thought getting converted into thinking was not happening immediately. Right, that was where I was getting stuck. Um, I used to go with that process of thinking for some time, let's say what 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever, and then suddenly it hit me, oh God, what have I done? I've been adding my own effort into this process and I've converted this thought into thinking and I've been running with it for so long. So I was perplexed. Why couldn't I identify it then and there? How couldn't I catch that a thought is getting converted into thinking? So I was trying to talk to people who were already into this concept, who had already implemented this in their life. So one person actually told me a very beautiful thing. I think the masters also talked about it quite a bit. Uh, that's a very beautiful extension of this concept. The master says that if the thought is converted into thinking, and for some reason you're running along with that thinking process, right, and you realize it at one particular point of time. So the idea is, the moment you realize, or the time up to which you run with it until the realization dawns on you that you've been putting your own effort and you have converted the thought into thinking, till that time you'll have to equate that not sort of thinking time as thought itself. Now, is this confusing? So basically, okay, I'll try to sort of rephrase this. Um, until the time that you realize that it's been your effort which has made you run with a particular thought, till that time it is not in your control. The moment you realize that you have put in an effort, you stop it then and there. So then you decide consciously, okay, is there anything for me to do at this point? Is there any action that I can take? Moment you realize that there is an action to take, you take that action and finish it. If you realize that there is no action to be taken, it's just that it's been going on in your mind, then you just drop it, right? So what happens eventually, and this is what happened in my case as well, the time taken for you to realize that you've been running with the thinking process, maybe if it was initially 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it becomes whatever, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. That time gap keeps on reducing, and you will come to a point where the moment a thought hits you, and if it has to require an effort to convert into action, you will realize it then and there, and you will either convert it into action, finish it, or you will just let it pass, right? So when you let it pass, what happens is, then you're letting the thoughts flow through you, so they don't bother you. It's like a free flowing river. Water is flowing, right? If you put your hand into the flowing water, you are acting as a hindrance to the flow, right? So the water hits you and then it rebounds. So the water hitting the hand and rebounding is thinking. The moment you take your hand off, right, and water continues to flow, that is a thought or a series of thought flowing on. A flowing river doesn't disturb anybody. It is something that is placed in the flow of water that acts as a disturbance. Understood? So this is the significance of this concept, and as I was mentioning, this helps both in the spiritual pursuit, as well as to understand, how do I put it, eradicate, if I can put it that way, to solve. That's a milder word, right? To solve a very important psychological problem in my case, which was excessive thinking. Now, so this excessive thinking, as you can understand clearly, can be solved just by understanding this concept. Now, how do I say that this also sort of fulfills a spiritual pursuit? Um, in my case, what happened was, when this understanding happened to me and I started putting this concept more and more into practice, uh, a beautiful transformation happened. Or can I say metamorphosis? Um, or simply put, a shift happened. That's a sort of more comprehensive word. Um, Earlier, I realized there was a goal or a point where I had to reach in my spiritual journey. I could see the point where I had to go and try however I may. As I said, there was a invisible wall, kind of a block, and I couldn't cross. So I tried all kinds of stuff, various kinds of meditation, uh, visiting holy places. Um, Nothing really sort of broke that last block, you know. So then I got introduced to master's teaching. Um, I had attended an enlightenment camp, and it was as if a fog lifted. And that same goal which I had to reach, which I was trying to reach, let's say from this direction, I reached it from a different direction. It's not that I took a detour, mind you, I didn't take a detour. It's just that I approached it from a different direction, and that direction happened to be more logic oriented. And somehow that logical approach appealed to my mind, and that simple understanding brought me to the same destination in a faster way and in a smoother way, right? So once I reached there, I realized, oh, this is where I wanted to reach right from the beginning. And it's very difficult to describe in words the feeling that you get when you uh, I don't know, I mean, I don't know whether this is bliss, I don't know, I don't even want to go into that naming game, right? So uh, one has to sort of undergo this transformation, put this into practice, and experience this transformation or this shift to understand what happens when you ultimately reach. Um, and one sort of disclaimer or a caveat I want to add here is, um, you don't plan to reach. No, you don't plan to reach. You can't plan to reach. You are just implementing this concept and reaching the destination. Or I don't even want to, after having reached, I don't even want to use the word destination. That also sounds very cliched. Um, Once you're there, okay, once you're there, let's put it that way. Once you're there, you realize that it happened to you. You didn't make it happen. You can't make it happen. I was all along thinking that I need to put in effort. I have to do this, I have to do that, and somehow reach there. Uh, and here I was. I had dropped all effort. I just let that concept sink into me. Started implementing the concept of thought and thinking. Put it into practice. And one fine day, I realized I was there at the again, I'm using the word destination for want of a better word. I had reached there, and I didn't even realize how I reached there. So the beauty is when you let things go in the flow, and this is what the master says: flow with the flow, flow with the flow. Drop whatever you're doing, drop your burden, flow with the flow. These are two phrases that he uses very often. So when I was, even now, as I speak, I'm getting goosebumps, right? So I'm able to recall the moment when this sort of clicked into me, right? So when you go with that flow, you reach a point where you know that you've arrived, sort of you've arrived. Um, and the beauty is this state sort of stays with you. It's not a temporary thing. um, I can feel that something inside me has shifted permanently. It's no longer the old Arvind. There's some change, a subtle change maybe, and which has happened to me, and uh, some people around me have sort of noticed this as well, and one or two have even commented, "Oh, I can see something different with you. What is it? How can I explain? How can I explain? I don't know, miracle, magic, or simply put, the effect of this understanding. It's I can explain the concept since I've understood it and I've implemented. I can explain the concept, but having understood the concept, that shift has to happen for that particular person, right? So when that happens, you'll know that you've arrived. So in that way, this concept actually helps you, um, as the master says again, end your search, finish your journey, right? Um, I'm actually feeling lost for words when I'm. This is a beautiful space to be in, right? Um, I hope this video is of immense use to you all. Anybody who's watching this, I urge you. In fact, I would say I implore you. You know, get this put into practice in your life. This is all that is required. Trust me, I've had my share of search, uh, be it for the spiritual pursuit or for solving excessive thinking or any such uh, issues. This is all that is required. I've tried my stuff. I've tried breath control. I've tried sort of watching my breath. A lot of videos are available on the net. I've tried quite a bit. If at all I used to get a temporary respite, this ultimately nailed it. It's sort of, now there is no need or a requirement for me to try anything. I'm there. I can feel it. It's not that I don't get any thought. It's not that I don't convert that into thinking any longer. Even now I do. I'm just like you. I'm also a normal human being, right? Nothing very different about me. So if I can feel the difference, if I can feel the shift, if I can experience the transformation, so can you, right? So please understand this concept. Very simple. Put it into practice. You will be benefited. The proof for that is standing right in front of you, right? So I hope this discussion has been very fruitful, and I would like to thank you all for providing me an opportunity to explain what I understood from this concept, and to put it across to somebody who's watching this video, and hoping that this brings